Good people, good people, good people. Welcome back to the Gumptown Podcast, episode 167. I'm Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving it a shot. Today's guest is the founder and owner of Potz And Panz Gourmet Cafe. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure we'll all be inspired by her story. Let's chop it up with Demonica Pugh. Demonica, how's it going?
It's going great, sir.
Glad to hear that. First things first, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me. I really appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Yes, ma'am. Of course, here to talk about all the great things you got going on with Potz And Panz Gourmet Cafe LLC. But before we talk business, let's get to know the woman behind the brand. Born and raised in the Gump. What was your upbringing like in the city?
Well, I was born and raised in Montgomery, and coming up as the oldest of four siblings. My mother had all girls, and it was more so just trying to learn how to be a woman. And thank God that I had both my parents in my life, growing up in the household. It wasn't easy now. It was a lot of obstacles, you know, taking place. But throughout everything, I was able to learn, a lot of things from a lot of my family members, older family members, how to clean, cook, work, and work. So it was very challenging. I give all the praise to them. Some of them passed on and gone on home and everything. But in the midst of everything, I learned a lot. My mom is from Montgomery. My father is from Wilcox County. Both of my parents, they are hardworking people, and I didn't have it easy being the oldest, help raising my sisters. I have a sister that's handicapped, and that was a real challenging factor there. She can't walk or talk. When she was born, they said that she wasn't going to live to be three, and my sister is 51. Praise God.
Hmm.
She's still going strong. Her name is Jacqueline, and that the motivation came really from her. Taking care of her and trying to understand the things that she needed. Because she wasn't like us. We was able to do things for ourselves and everything, but we had to take care of her. So that made me stronger. It made me want to be able to love more and give more of myself to people that's in need. And when I was coming up, with my grandmother down in Wilcox County, because we was raised in I could say, not with everything. So being said that, down in the country, we had to farm, we had to do everything. And that's when I got my start. Is they cook all this good food and everything. And so I said, I want to learn how to cook this kind of food. And that's what I did. And that to me was the best thing that I ever could do, is to learn different recipes from them and take it and put it to my own spin. And it was a beautiful thing.
Hmm. Yes, ma'am. That's powerful. I appreciate you for your transparency and sharing your story and just hearing you talk about growing up with mom and dad, grandmama. Sounds like, first of all, you had a great village around you growing up in Montgomery.
Yes, I did. And hey, I wasn't the best child. I did things that wasn't right, but I learned from those mistakes. And I didn't want to go down the wrong path, being around the wrong people and everything. So hey, I took that learning how to cook and put that into to a hustle where I made money from it. I started my business in Atlanta. First of all, how I got to Atlanta was that I was the first Black female from Alabama to go and work for the Olympics when the Olympics came to Georgia
Mm.
at the Marriott Marquis. And that there, with that being said, I said, this is what I really want to do. I knew then that I wanted to be a chef. I knew I wanted to have my own business, but I didn't know how to go about doing it. And I just put myself around people that were smarter than me, where I can be able to grasp their talents, their work ethic. And hey, I just didn't give up. I started my business in Georgia with $50.
Mm.
And I failed. I failed two or three times. But like I said, I still didn't give up. I started selling food out of my apartment. I was pregnant with my son. And when I had graduated from the Art Institute of Washington, D.C., I was like 3 months pregnant. I moved back to Georgia, and then I moved there and said, hey, I had to end up, staying with friends and family at that time. And I ended up getting my own place, my own apartment. And like I said, I started selling food at my apartment. And it just took off from there. I worked in a lot of different sectors. I worked in the prison system, federal government, the VA Medical Center, Applebee's. I can name so many places I've worked for. 5-star hotels. The hospitality was my go-to. Working all day, every day, 2 and 3 jobs in hospitality. So yes, I took everything that I learned from them and I put it into my own perspective, and that's how Potz and Panz became. My sister used to tell me all the time. She said, every time you move, Monica, you always have the Harriet picture, and you always have these Potz and Panz. So I said, So I said, well, you know what? When I open my business up, I'm gonna call it Potz and Panz, but with a twist. Instead of S, I put a Z on it. And behind that, I did not want to call it a soul food restaurant because I'm more so a chef that's creative. So that's where the gourmet cafe came from, the gourmet side of it. But my roots is Southern cuisine.
Mm.
And doing my travels, working there, working different places and things of that nature, different hotels. You have a lot of people that work in the hotel sectors and stuff that's from different countries. And I got up under them and learned how to cook their cuisines, international cuisine, Vietnamese. I was able to learn how to cook African food, vegan. I was cooking vegan way before vegan became popular, because when I was in Georgia, I was working for an entertainment lawyer, and that's all he kept saying. He said, Chef Pugh, he said, a lot of my clients don't eat meat. He said, if you could come up with some dishes that doesn't pertain meat, then we can really sit down and do some business and everything. And so, I got in the test kitchen. My test kitchen was my restaurant in Georgia, downtown Main Street in Stone Mountain, Georgia. I got in there and I started, working on different things, how to build flavors on cooking the Southern cuisine, like collard greens, peas and okra, everything that require you to use meat. Back then you could cook collard greens. Everybody cooking with ham hocks. They using pork tails and everything. And then, but at the end of the day, when it settled down, you got half a pot full of grease. I know then that if I didn't make a change in that era, I wouldn't be here now, because those type of meats will clog your arteries up. So yes, I'm glad I did that. And that's one thing that when I moved back to Montgomery, a lot of people was telling me, you don't put no meat in your food. I said, no. But they said, well, it tastes like it has meat in it. I said, because I build flavors. My cuisine, the way I prepare food, it's a unique taste. My food is farm to table because that's how I was raised. No processed food. When we was coming up, every night our parents had to cook a meal. We all sat at the table and prayed and ate together.
Mm.
We did not have no McDonald's, no Burger King. And then when those restaurant sectors came around to the other part of it, we didn't have the money to go and buy that kind of stuff. And even though it was really cheap then, you can go get a hamburger at McDonald's back then was 25 cents. But it was hard to get 25 cents. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
we had to go and take $10 and you can buy a whole chicken, a cabbage, some cornmeal, some flour, some oil, eggs, and some Kool-Aid and sugar, and you got you a meal.
Right. Absolutely. No, absolutely. And you spot on with that, just in terms of the processed foods and just how things used to be. And I mean, I definitely can attest growing up in the country and just witnessing that, looking back on it in hindsight, they ate off the land and didn't have all that processed stuff. But I do want to go back just to what you were talking about, and you've shared a lot of great stuff. And I've been over here taking notes and just hearing your great story of overcoming adversity and everything you've been through, and just want to go back to you being the oldest of four girls, and it just sounds like you had to grow up fast, and you were there for your sister and making sure that she was loved, unconditional love, because that's one thing to be there and do for her when she couldn't do for herself. Just want to commend you for that. Like that's a true definition of unconditional love, and it sounds like from an early age you were a leader. So it's no mistake as to why you're like like I'm not surprised you are where you are now because it sounds like you just always been a leader and you've always been willing to step up and like I said, just be a great leader. So I appreciate you for sharing your background with us.
Well, you know what? I can say this right here. I didn't grow up fast because I still was able to get out there and play.
Hmm.
Um, I was athletic. I played basketball. I ran track. I was in a band. Um, McIntyre to Bellingraph to Lanier. I graduated from Lanier in '88. Went to Alabama State. I was a marching hornet there. From there, my major was at Alabama State was business management, and my minor was music. I felt like being there was good too, but I wanted more. I was in the classroom for all those many years, and I said to myself, I don't want to sit in the classroom no more. So I just withdrew myself from Alabama State, and I just started going working up different places and getting that hard knocks experience.
Right,
And I just look back over my life, and I said, you know what, you paying for this now. You have to pay for it. I mean, really, you have to pay for it. The things that I've learned back then, you can't get that now. Um, in the sector now, all these, people that want to come in, say they want to be a chef, they want to do this and that. They in it for the wrong reason. They in it for for the money.
right,
Money comes with experience, and you have to have a lot of experience up under your belt to know the techniques of cooking. Anybody can go in there and boil water and throw some eggs in there, but do they know how long it's going to take for the egg to come out perfect?
right,
Do they know how long the egg's going to come out where when you crack it, you still got a whole egg? Half of it is not on the skin of the shell. You know what I'm saying?
right,
So it's a technique to cooking. And then they say that it's a passion. No, passion of cooking is that's not what it is. It has to be a gift. And
right,
God gave me a gift of cooking because it's nothing that I cannot bake or prepare, nothing. I mean, real talk. You give me a recipe. I don't cook right by recipe. I don't. I can just look at something and I just go in and I cook it myself. I cook it and I prepare it and I make my own recipe.
mm,
Sometimes it comes out good, sometimes it come out bad, but then I can go back. And when I say I can go back, I can reference to all the restaurants that I worked at, how we fix recipes, how we fix that item, if that cake or something that I would bake, if it were, fall in the midst of cooking, it's something that I did in that process. So I start over again, then I get it right. It might be too much of baking soda, it might be too much of this or that, the leavenage that I put together, because you have different leavenage when it's come down to baking. A lot of people think you can put baking soda in there, baking powder, it's gonna rise, but that's not the case. Because see, when you want to bake a certain cake, you have components. You have vinegar, you have baking soda, you have eggs. Those three things right there can make a cake rise.
mm.
So it's like I say, it's techniques. The techniques to making sauces. The mother sauces. You got red, you got brown, you got white. The white sauce is more so for macaroni and the brown sauce is for gravies and the red sauce is for pasta sauces. So like I say, it's all about technique, sir.
Hmm. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And just hearing you give us that master class on cooking, like it's definitely your gift, like you were just saying. God bless you with that gift, and you've taken that gift all over the world, and you continuing to do great things with that gift. But I do want to back up again because after you finished up high school, you came over to South Jackson Street. You attended the Alabama State University. So before you withdrew yourself from state, what was the HBCU experience like for you when you got to Alabama State?
It was whew, it was fun. It was fun. To be honest with you, I worked over there in a band. That was just what it was. We was in class. When we leave class, we have to go to band practice. I mean, from sun up to sundown, because we had to get ready for those games and stuff. They have I forgot the one that we did. I think it was in Mobile. That was like a long march. So they had to teach us how to breathe when we're marching so nobody would fall out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When we go to the Magic City Classic, because I marched in the Magic City Classic only one time. That was experience that it was just mind blowing, to get on the field and be able to learn those steps. And then next thing you know, you over here, you look like a bird, you over here, it's look like a W, you over here. And to see it on TV, and I was actually there, it was really fun. It was a great experience. And I think if I didn't want to pursue my culinary career, I would have stayed there. But see, Alabama State didn't have those type of options. Alabama had Trenum, but Trenum was not something that could give me what I really wanted. It was limited, you know. I can tell a lot of people that you have to leave Alabama. You have to leave Alabama, period, and go experience other cities and states in order to understand just the gift of life. You limit yourself. You just don't want to go nowhere. You're so scared. I'm not scared. You know, I would
Right.
look at it like, if I don't try, if I fail, so what? At least I put the effort towards doing it. You
Right.
know,
Right.
so it's no saying to me, well, I'm a fail doing this. I'm a fail doing this. So what?
Right.
If you don't do it, then you're gonna die with regression, saying, "Hey, if I could, if what."
Right.
So I tell a lot of people, just take your chance on God, put your faith on Him, and you know what? When you look back, it wasn't even that hard than you realize it was.
Right. Absolutely. 1000%. And even just hearing you talk about that, I know earlier you were saying when you went into business for yourself, how you failed a couple times. I don't really think you failed. I think you just learned different ways how not to do things. And the things we go through, Demonica, good, bad, or indifferent, they all shape us. They all make sense on the back end. Nothing makes sense while we're going through it. But the thing is, you stuck with it. You never gave up. Just had that perseverance. You were determined to figure this thing out. And even the fact that you were at Alabama State in the band doing great things, and you were self-aware. You realized, hey, Alabama State isn't going to offer me the culinary arts curriculum that I need, that I want, that I desire. So you withdrew. You did what you had to do, and commend you for making that decision and taking that chance. Because, like you said, most people would have been too afraid to do it. So, just sounds like you've always given yourself that audacity. You always just trusted in God. You always had that faith. You always walked in that faith. That's amazing.
Yes, because I was raised in a holiness church. I
Mhm.
was. I mean, I thank God for my mother for having us in church,
Right.
because some people say you don't have to go to church to have God in you, and that's absolutely right. But it feels really good to sit in those pews and hear the word, because it does something to you. I mean, a spiritual journey, it does something to you.
Right.
It gives you that, it's like, it's a demand for it, and it gives you discipline.
Hmm.
Because see, if you don't get it, you can read the Bible all day long. You can read it from Genesis all the way to Revelation. You can read it. But if you don't go and get a teacher to put it in a way where you can understand it, then you don't know. So you have to have a relationship with God. Everybody have a different relationship with God.
Right.
So, you know, like I say, my mother and them, I come from a family that was in a church. I mean, church every day, go to choir rehearsal. Sometimes you'd be mad, my mama, I don't want to go to church, but I'm so glad that I did, because
Right.
I wouldn't be here now. I know I wouldn't. I would have been dibbling dabbling with people that would have been no good for me. And then, even though I did taste that water now, but then guess what? That discernment spirit told me, hey, that's not the way you want to go. So
Right.
guess what? I ran away from that. But in the midst of everything, I leaned on God. I leaned on the spirit. I leaned on just thinking about the things when I was young, when I was in church, well, how prayer can change things. So yes. Hmm.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And yes, for sure. Prayer can definitely change things. And I mean, just hearing you talk about, hey, you taste that water, you was out in the world having a good time. Most of us were, Demonica. Like, none of us are saints. And I know people get on social media or people try to act like holier than now, but a lot of us made mistakes. A lot of us done things we're not necessarily proud of. But the most important thing is you came back to you came back to the source. You came back to where it all started. Like when you were just saying you didn't understand why we're going to choir rehearsal, why we're doing all this church stuff, but Mama was building those principles, that discipline. She was showing you all how to build a relationship with God. So hey, if you ever depart, you always can find your way back home. And it just sounds like, hey, you went and had some fun, but you found your way back home, and that's what it's all about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, good stuff. So you leave the Alabama State University and you end up chefing you end up, yeah, chefing, or you end up showing your culinary art skills at the '96 Olympics. What was that experience like, Demonica?
Well, you know what? Before I got to the Olympics, when I was Alabama State, I was still working at McDonald's on Fairview. That was
Okay.
my first job. And McDonald's showed me speed, showed me how to interact with customers. You know, it showed me a lot of things. I started there as a cashier. When I left McDonald's, I was a lead manager. You know, I started there. I was making $3.35 an hour.
Hmm. Okay.
And then I sit back and say, man, all the work that I did for $3.35 an hour. Hey, when I did get that check, I gave it to my mother. I didn't
Hmm.
see it because I had to, I felt like I had to help in the household.
Right.
Long as she had a roof over our head and a vehicle for us to get around in that she would take. And then when I was able and got my driver's license, I was able to save up my money and got me a little car, you know. And that what took the strain off of her and my father, where I was able to drive to school and take my sister them, get them to school and whatnot. So yeah, you got your perks in it, but you got to work.
Right.
Ain't nothing gonna come to you, just dreaming. When I say dreaming, I'm talking about, man, I want this, but if you don't get out there and work, how you gonna get it?
Ain't gonna happen.
And no, no, it's not gonna happen. And so when working, doing up in when I went to the Olympics, cause see, I was working at Applebee's at first, just came over to Eastdale Mall. So I was working at Olive Garden as well, and then I started working a second job at Applebee's. Applebee's loved my work ethic. They said, "Hey, I want you to come full time." See, then I put everything out on the table. I said, "Well, now if you want me to leave Olive Garden and come over here and work over here." So if Olive Garden back then, I was making like what, $6 or more then, and then working over here making about the same, by 8. So guess what? You guys got to pay me enough where I can leave one job and work here. So I wanted to work two jobs. Do that make sense? So me being the strong headed person that I am, so they was able to give me. I was making $10 an hour back then, and
Hmm.
I tell you, I worked my way up from there to be a kitchen professional with Applebee's and everything. So that's how I was able to get to the Olympics. You
Hmm.
know, I would put in, you know, application and stuff on the computer, because back then we had the AOL, so you have to make sure it was plugged up into the phone line, and you hear that little beat, and you jump on the internet. So I was able to search it, and it kept popping up. The Olympics coming to Atlanta, this and that. So I was able to go into different browsers and stuff, and it popped up saying, "Hey, fill out the application. What's your criteria? This and that and the third." And I did, and I was chosen.
Mm. Wow, that's amazing. And just hearing you talk about your time in McDonald's and Applebee's and Olive Garden, and it's just so interesting hear you talk about all those different stops and how you learned something key that you ended up that you ended up applying in your own business. And that's what I was talking about earlier, DeMonica. That's why I love the journey of just becoming, because everything you go through, everything you learn, it never makes sense in the moment, but it always makes sense on the back end. So I appreciate you for just sharing that journey.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. So you work your way up. You end up seeing the Olympics, the positions available online. You apply for them. You end up in Atlanta at the Olympics. What was that experience like?
Well, when I got there, we had to do a background check and all this kind of stuff, because President Bill Clinton, he was staying at that hotel. He was there, and the president Billy Payne was there as well. So it was really security was very high. And I can say, I mean, when I tell you I have fed a lot of important people, President Bill Clinton have eaten my food. He don't know I cooked it, but I did. Was part of it. Billy Kane too as well. I worked with Tyler Perry when I was up, had my restaurant in Georgia. I worked with I did some things for Monica, Usher, Tony, Jagged Edge, Silk, because like I was telling you, I had a contract with the entertainment lawyer. So he was the lawyer for them at that time. So yes,
Okay.
I did a
Okay.
lot of catering for a lot of them.
Okay. Sounds good. So you took full advantage. You made the most of your opportunity to cook at the Olympics. Got a chance to feed former President Clinton and a few other celebrities. So that's what I'm talking about, Demonica. You made the most of your opportunity. You got in there. You showed up and you showed out. Put on for the Gump. I love it.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, yes, ma'am. So, and I'm not sure. So let's talk about the Arts Institute in DC. Was this after Atlanta or was this before Atlanta when
It
you
was
left?
after Atlanta. So before I
Okay.
got to the Art Institute, I ended up coming back to Montgomery and working for the VA Medical Center here on Perry Hill Road. I was the youngest as being a canteen chief, sitting in meetings with the directors and stuff of medicines, working there. And that really opened up doors in that sector too as well, because I didn't know anything about running a retail store, the canteen department, and then concessions and stuff. So the gentleman that was my director, he came down from Washington D.C. to see why the numbers went up, because before I got there, their numbers were really low in the food service department, but in the retail was kind of high. So he came down to see was they, messing with the numbers and stuff. And when he came there and everything, he was like, I'm yeah, blase. I'm not gonna call his name, but he told me his name and everything. And I explained to him that what I did when I came there, everything that they was ordering was processed. The soups, I mean, they was ordering a lot of things that they were just quick things to put in the oven or just drop it in a pot of water. And I was making it from scratch. We had all the ingredients there, and that's the reason why the sales had started to increase. They was making 14,000 some months, 12,000 before I got there. I doubled those numbers, and he couldn't understand. You double that number from 12,000 to 35,000 in a month.
Mm.
I did.
Tripled it almost.
Yes, I
Golly.
did.
Okay. Got in there and you saw they was serving up the processed quick microwavable foods and you came in there and showing out again, cooking from scratch, and you done tripled the sales. And now the director want to meet you because now he like, what's going on down there in Montgomery? Like she done got there and she cutting up and my sales done tripled, so he had to come meet you. Okay.
Yes, and he did. And then, I was like, it was an incident had happened. And when it happened, it took the young lady that was over me, she had to resign. And he told me, he said, hey, he said, well, we got to go to a food show in Kansas City. Can you handle this while we're gone for a week? He said, just keep the doors open and the money go to the bank. And I said, I'm going to do my best. And I did. When that gentleman came back from that food show, he offered me that job as a canteen chief there.
Hmm.
And what I did, I took all of the old employees that was older women and stuff, and I put them in easier jobs. So they paved their way already. They had 29, 28 years. I put them somewhere where they didn't have to they already did the work. So I ended up hiring younger people to make their job easier. And and it was so funny is that when I got there, they were so used to being up under the other supervisor, where they thought, hey, this young lady gonna come in here and she gonna do this and that. But what I did was the opposite. I fought to get them a raise because they were working there so long. They deserved a raise. And I'm talking about not 50 cents. I had got them $1.50 raise.
Mm.
The monies that he gave, that the bonus that it was owed to me, I split it up with them and gave it to them. He said, are you sure you want to do this? I said, yes. I said, because guess what? I'm going to need them to help me run this thing.
Right, exactly. Hey, teamwork made the dream work. You know it.
Yes, and so it worked out really good. And then I end up leaving there and moving to Washington, D.C. with my uncle and my aunt. And that's how I ended up going to the art institute. It was like three different culinary art schools. There's one in Baltimore that I went to. I was gonna think about going there, but I decided to go to art institute, and I did graduate there. And working up there, I went to Rockdale, Maryland, and applied at I think it was a 5-star DoubleTree hotel. Getting there, we had to do a black box. A black box is they give you a couple of dishes, items, and you got to cook it. So that was your resume.
Mm.
You up there, you can't just tell people what you can do. They show and tell style. So they gave me chicken, they gave me a fish, and they gave me some vegetables. With the chicken, I did a jerk chicken. With the fish, I did a grill fish, grill salmon. I can't quite remember the size and stuff, but I prepared it to my best of my ability. The seasonings, I had to make my jerk seasoning from scratch. I made everything. They watched me in their kitchen move around like I've been working there with them for a long time. Because I'm a people person. I get in there, I jump in, I did my thing. So after I prepared the meals, I'm thinking that, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Because the guy got on the phone and called somebody, not knowing he called the general manager of the hotel to come down because he said, wow, he said this flavor, this food is mind blowing.
Mm.
He's like, oh my God, it's so good. He said, what will it take for you to come and work for us? And the key thing was, he said, this kitchen right here that you are in is a male kitchen. They never had a female chef working in their kitchen. I would have been the first to work in their kitchen, a female. So I was honored. I was excited. I was happy. But what happened was they offered me the wrong kind of money, baby.
Mm.
They offered me $9. I said, really? I won't be coming up in there working, you
Ouch.
know. So then I left there and I went over to Washington, D.C. at the Western Grand Hotel. And I applied there, got an interview, went in there with the executive sous chef and everything, did the interview with him. And before I left, I gave him a good handshake. And the look on that gentleman's face, it was like he was just looking at me all kind of crazy and stuff. I'm like, what's going on with him? But anyway, to make a long story short, I ended up getting a phone call and he offered me the job. And when I went back for the second part of the interview was basically to see what my job description was going to be. He said, you know, reason why I hired you? He said, that handshake. He said, I ain't never had a woman or a man shake my hand like that. And see, I get that from my dad, my uncle. They always would tell me, when you shake a person's hand, look them dead in their eye, because
Mm.
that way you mean business.
Right.
So I said, okay. And I did it. Now look at me. Look at me now.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, that's amazing. That's so cool. Just hearing just that transition from Atlanta to the VA to the DMV. So let me ask you this, Demonica. So when you got to the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area, did you experience any cultural shock coming from the South, moving up there?
Well, you know what? I didn't, because it was so ironic that the hotel that I was working at, the on Western Grand, I was working there, and plus I was going to school too. They would order fried chicken that's already pre-cooked and things like that, and baked beans and stuff that's already cooked in the bags and stuff. So, we as chefs, we had to rotate cooking for the staff. We had a kitchen for the staff downstairs. We have to cook for them because it's for us. We don't have to pay it. It's inclusive working there. So when it was my time to cook, I did it what I know best: fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, yams, cabbages, green beans, potatoes, cornbread. Then I did. We had to do soup of the week. So I would do soups that I know of, like a one pot soup, and I would do chicken and rice, things that I know that we would just cook around the house, and chili and stuff like that. Man, those guys was like emailing everybody to me, who cooking for us this week? To me, it's good. So like I say, it was a great experience. And so when my executive sous chef said to me, he's not ordering no more fried chicken no more. He
Mm.
said, you're going to be cooking all the Southern things for the catering. So now I'm stepping my way up the ladder at the hotel. At that hotel there, they had a big concert come there. Donnie McClurkin, Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, and some more gospel artists. So they stayed at that property I was working at, and our sister property around the corner. I was able to feed them too, and I was able to really talk and fellowship with Yolanda Adams because the chef that was cooking for her, he couldn't get it right. So I end up jumping in and cooking it, listening to what she said, how she want her food. And then I go back into the kitchen and prepare, and then the server take it out there to her. So she was like, this is what I want. Can you bring the chef out? I go out. She said, have a seat. Her and her daughter. I sit down. I talk with them and everything. Great, great lady. Great lady. And like I said, it's just a blessing. It's a blessing. You can't be strong-headed when you in your business. You have to be open-minded. You have to be a listener. You have to listen more and talk less, because if you don't, you're gonna miss a lot of things throughout the midst of it.
Mm. Listen more and talk less. And I, like I said, I just your overall story is just amazing. Just what your gift of being a culinary artist, your gift is taking you to the Olympics. You took you always brought you back to the VA, took you to the DMV, broke bread with President Clinton, Yolanda Adams, Ursha, Jagged Edge. I just I just love these type of stories. I just love to hear the journey, and it's just through it all. Just you pretty much just summed up why you've been so successful in that last statement. Like you've always just been a student. You've always listened more, talk less. It sounds like you've always adapted in every environment you got in. You don't meet any strangers. You said earlier you're a people's person, and that's just amazing, Demonica. Like just your journey and your story is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. So amazing. So present day, you are the owner, operator, founder of Potz And Panz Gourmet Cafe. So I read where you launched this business in 99. So you've been in business for 25 years. I want to congratulate you first of all. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
But guess what?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it on my own.
Right.
God, I give all the praise to my Father, okay?
Right.
Because a lot of people say, "Hey, I did this, I did that." No, we're serving on this earth for Him. We do things to get to the next level, but you gotta, like I say, I'm gonna keep saying, you gotta have a relationship with Him. My spiritual journey it's real. It's real. It's real.
Right.
Man will let you down every time. I don't put my trust in man. I can sit and talk to you all day long, but when it's time for me to get some things done, I'm going to talk to my father, my big
Got to.
daddy.
Got to. Got to. Call it Big Daddy. I like that. I like that. I like that. That's all right. Yes, ma'am. No, that's amazing. I agree wholeheartedly, 1000%. At the end of the day, all glory goes to God. Without God, nothing is possible. Through God, all is possible.
You
So,
know what? I'm gonna say this right here. When I left there and then I ended up getting pregnant and I moved back to Georgia. When I had my son name is Jarius. Now, when I tell you that young man from birth until now, that's all he knew about his mama, just work. That party and stuff was over. I had to become a mother. I had to become an entrepreneur. I had to become a go getter. I had another life I had to take care of. You know, so I say my son, when he was able to get in the kitchen with me, he would get in there, get on a stool and press lemons with me to make lemonades, things of that nature. So that's the reason why I call my son, it's called Jarius Homemade Lemonade. I try to take the people that was dear to me. I name some of my entrees after them, and my son was with me from day one, until time till he said, "Hey, mom, I want to go do my own thing," and I had to respect that. Did I like it? No, I didn't, but I had to respect it so he can get his feet wet like I did. I had to lead the nest. Me being he's being an only child. It's kind of hard to let your baby lead the nest,
mm,
but I had to so he can find his way too as well. But the good thing about it was that when I end up moving back home to Montgomery and stuff, I closed my restaurants up there and came back. I came back here in 2013. I ended up getting with some people, and the restaurant was called Mama Nim's. I don't know if you remember. Mama Nim's was over there in the old Cracker Barrel building. I was a chef over there, and then that didn't work out. It didn't work out. So I ended up had to start over again. I hit the ground running, selling food once again out of my house to get my name put out there. Chef Demonica Pugh, Potz And Panz. And I did that. Then I ended up landing to get me a food truck. I got me a food truck. When I got that food truck, my first commissary was Vicky Lunchvan. She believed in me and she gave me a chance. And from there, my first with that food truck, I was on the corner of Coliseum and with Federal Drive down there on Pete's Car Wash. I was there for about a year. Then I ended up leaving there, going down to Millbrook. Mom's Flea Market. I'll put my food truck on Mom's Flea Market. I put it over there. And the owner of Mom's Flea Market, his mom would come and purchase vegetables and stuff from me. She's like, I love your vegetables and chicken salad. I would do things for her because she was an elderly lady. And she said it was hard to really find some good vegetables, that's cooked without all that sodium and stuff in it. And so, yeah, I ended up talking to him, just, having a general conversation. And then he told me, he said, I have a vape shop across the street. They're about to get ready. Their lease is about to be up, and it's a hood in there. Will you be interested in going in a brick and mortar? I said, say no more. Mm-hmm. And, that was another step that I had to just think about, and I prayed about it. And I took that chance, and I was down in Millbrook down there for like 3 years. And when I left Millbrook, I ended up coming back to Montgomery. And that's when I met my business partner, Felicia. I met her before then. And she was the co-owner of Changes Beauty at that time. But we ended up collaborating and everything. And she is a bubbly spirit type person, love this, love that. And hey, it was just a great business relationship. She was able to get in there with me. We went around the round table and see how we can grow this thing. That way I can focus on cooking and she focused on the front of hospitality. And we've been going ever since.
Yes, ma'am. Again, another great story, another great testament to just your gift making room for you and just being in the right place at the right time, and just, of course, like you said, just keeping God first, keeping the faith, and in the midst of things not working out at the restaurant you were a chef at, and how everything came full circle, and that's what you got going on present day, you and your business partner, all the great things you all have going on. It's just, again, just a testament to your faith and your perseverance to keep on going, because, hey, when things didn't work out at the other restaurant, you could have easily went back and got you a 9 to 5, but you kept the dream alive and you kept rocking and rolling.
But I
Oh, you
did get a
did?
9 to 5.
Okay.
I did get a 9 to 5. In between that, I worked at Tutwiler Prison, but I only worked at Tutwiler Prison for a month because I couldn't do that. I mean, because see, I used to work at the prison in Georgia, Metro Correctional Facility. Okay. I worked at Department of Corrections up there for like 5 or 6 years. I worked for Juvenile Detention Center too as well, but I always worked in the food service department.
Okay.
So when I came back to Montgomery, I worked at Tutwiler 2013. I worked there for probably about a month. I ended up resigning over there because I just couldn't do it. And then that's when I went to Mama Nim's and we opened up Mama Nim's. And then after that, I went back to the prison system. I worked at with Elmore Correctional. I worked down there for about 3 months. And that was my last job. That was my last job because, see, I tried to tell people, I said, listen, you have to make your dream has to be your part-time job, and you have to work a full-time job so that your part-time job, your dream can be your full-time. You have to work to get to that point. So yes, I had to work. I worked at Elmore and I still sold plates. I went to beauty shops, anywhere where a lot of people just going to be sitting there. They're going to be hungry. I pull up with everything in my van. What you want to eat?
Right.
Hey, they was enjoying the food. And from that point, like I said, then I was able to resign from there because that's when my food truck got permitted, and I was able to leave that full-time job alone and make my part-time job my full-time job, which is my full-time job now is my business.
Yes, ma'am. Powerful stuff. And I appreciate you for the transparency. And hey, like you said, you had to go back, do the 9 to 5 thing. I mean, granted, Demonica, you didn't stay that long. I mean, you got in there and you realized, hey, this ain't for me. I'm getting out of here. 1 month. Then you go back for 3 months. So you making it sound like you stuck around for a year. You was in and out of there, Demonica. You weren't playing around.
No, you have to. You got to jump in and jump out because guess what?
Yes, ma'am.
When I jumped in, I was able to go and get certification on their dime.
Nice.
I need those certifications. I need to serve safe. See, I've been serve safe ever since I was 16 years old.
Right.
Every 5 years you get certified. So from 16, I'm 55 now.
Okay.
The things has changed being in the serve safe. I mean, every 5 years you have to go back and take a test to abreast yourself on what has changed with the food handling. Serve safe means you're gonna serve the food safe. We are victims when it comes down to food, and a lot of people don't understand. See, you can say, "Oh, my stomach hurt. I got a little tummy ache," but see, if at some point somebody didn't handle that food right in the midst of it, so that's the reason why we have to take those courses. It's mandatory now. It wasn't mandatory years ago. It wasn't, but it's mandatory now because you know you can't put degreaser sitting next to a pot of collard green. Something can spill into it. Sometimes people ain't gonna say it because they don't want them. They don't want to get in trouble. But with me, I'm all over it. I mean, we constantly coaching at Potz And Panz. I'm constantly telling them, make sure you wear gloves, make sure you got a hairnet on. They get tired of me telling them. So it's like, hey, you're gonna have to do it because it's the law. It's the law. You
Right.
can't get cannot you can't get you have to do it. It's the law. Just like if you drive, you gotta have a driver's license. That's the law, right?
Right.
Food service has laws too.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what it is. Mm-hmm.
Yes, man, that's powerful, and it just speaks to your ethics, your integrity that you were willing to that you went and got those certifications, and to your point, you got it on their dime. Hey, that was smart thinking, forward thinking. Your full time job funded your dream until your dream could replace your full time job. Love to hear it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. So just in terms of, so I usually, this segment of the podcast, I usually ask about entrepreneurs. I ask about the aha moment, action, and audacity. You pretty much given us all of those answers already, and you've done just such a great job just painting the picture and taking us through your story and your journey and just everything you've done up until this point, just your illustrious career as a culinary artist and what you're doing present day. So let me ask you this as it relates to being a full time entrepreneur, working for yourself, what is that everyday experience like for you? Just being able to write your own check and work for yourself. What's that like?
To be honest with you, I'm still not writing my own check because everything that I make really goes back into the business. I thank God for I had to downsize a lot. So I can get it on the back end if I make any sense.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. No, I'm
You
tracking.
know,
Hmm.
sir.
Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. I was listening.
So it's like everything when it comes through those doors and stuff, because some days are good days, some days are not good. So I have to make sure I bounce checks. One thing that I know that I have to do, and I learned that from the VA. The gentleman said, keep the money going to the bank and keep the doors open. That is important in any business because if you don't take the money and do right by it, you won't have a business. Because see, you have to pay your employees, you got to pay your overhead. You have to balance everything out. Where sometimes I don't get no money. I don't get nothing to pay my bills. I kind of have to make payment arrangements.
Mm.
But if I don't pay them employees, they ain't gonna come to work.
Wow. No, that's spot on, and that's again that just speaks to your character, your integrity, the fact that you were willing to share that. I appreciate just that transparency and just understanding. Hey, your employees and the teamwork make the dream work, and just being willing to make payment arrangements for your own bills and expenses just to make sure payroll gets met. No, that's
Yes,
powerful.
I had to go without for years. I mean,
Mm.
for years, I drove around in a white van that was on the side of the road so many times. My son used to tell me to my mama, please don't come pick me up in that van. Just park down. I will walk.
Wow.
My son said, Mama, I will walk down and don't. I said, Jay, don't be embarrassed. I said, because guess what? This is temporary.
Right.
So guess what? God blessed me where I was able to, and my mother was able to help me co-sign and get me a I uh, um 2013 BMW at
Okay.
Jack over there Jack Ingram Motors. Hey, guess what? That BMW is paid off now. It's sitting here waiting on him for his. He turned 21 next month.
Okay.
See.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, see, hey, you told him it's temporary, and now he finna be whipping the bins. It all worked out.
That's right. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be patient. I mean, you really have to be patient. You just can't. It you just got to be patient. That's all I got to say. It
Yes,
it
ma'am.
it will all pay for itself, but you got to keep working. You can't
Mhm.
stop. I worked through pain. I worked through body aching and everything. I mean, getting off work late at night and then have to be right back up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I get 3 hours worth of sleep.
Mm.
But guess what? I still be going. I
Yeah.
still be going. And I make sure I take care of my employees and I put the money back into my business because guess what? When people come in Potz And Panz, they see how we love on our building, how we love on the outside, our landscaping. We on the north side, but guess what? You cannot buy ambiance, baby. You can't
Right.
buy that.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. No, that's spot on, 1000%. So so let me ask you this, Demonica. So of course we know in 2020 what happened, the pandemic, world shut down, we was all in the house, quarantining. So how did you manage to pivot and stay afloat and stay in business during that time?
I was scared.
Mm,
I'm not gonna lie to you. Let me tell you what happened.
mm,
2019 in December, I took a vacation and went to Washington D.C. up there, and I went to New York for the ball drop up there. Came back in January, worked. Then I took me and my business partner. We took our parents to Las Vegas in February. Now we still around all these people, not knowing what's going on. But see, that December, it was crazy because see, I got sick, but I did not know I had the COVID. I thought it was just like a flu and stuff like that.
right.
So I went to the doctor and everything. They had gave me steroid shots and gave me antibiotics, but I still had to go back and get some extra, baby, because that thing was on me real bad.
Mm,
And then I got well and everything. And we up there in New York, all these people, man, I'm talking about millions of people, thousands of people to see the ball drop up in New York. We go to Las Vegas now. It's a lot of people in those casinos and all that kind of stuff. We around a lot of people. We get back before Valentine, work through that. Then March, that's when you start hearing on the news about this, some stuff about to go down, this and then all the people get sick and they die and all this kind of stuff. So yes, I got scared. And then when the kids went out for their spring break, they never went back. I said, "Oh, this is real now, baby.
right.
This is real. This ain't this real." So they said that hey, they did us a curfew. They shut it down. They said essential worker. I'm saying to myself, I cannot um I cannot stop paying my bill. That food truck was a blessing. I pulled that food truck in front of my restaurant and I worked it. I worked it to help the ones that had to go to work, that need to eat, and then we was able to work, go to the neighborhoods too and serve them. You know what I'm saying? So it was still scary now.
Right.
It was still scary, but we still made it through. And I was able to still help family members and friends and stuff because we switch up and have some come and work because they still need to buy food and do this kind of stuff because they wasn't giving out that monies and stuff then.
Right.
They weren't doing that, the stimulus and all that kind of stuff, that EDL loans and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we was able to help people along the way.
Okay. No, that sounds good. And that's amazing that during that pandemic and during that time, like you were just saying, it was a fearful time for all of us. I mean, business owners or whether you work a 9 to 5, like it was just a crazy time in general. But the fact that you were able to get the food truck back out and work it and still help out people and still stay afloat and pivot, that's amazing. And hey, it all worked out and you still standing to this day.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. You've done great things with the business. I know great things are coming down the pipeline, which leads to my next portion, vision. What are some of your short-term and long-term goals for the business you feel comfortable sharing?
Well, at this time of my life right now, I just want to continue to coach people that come into my business that I hire so we can grow our food truck industry. You know, I'm planning on the Lord's will getting about two more food trucks so we can have one for um our juicing business called All About Juice, cold press, and doing, exotic smoothies and stuff like that because that's what it is all about now. People really like raw vegetables and fruits that we cold press to give that natural fruit taste, that sweet taste, instead of putting all these different chemicals and stuff like that in it and everything. And I want to be able to do a breakfast food truck as well.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Sounds good. Just continue to expand with the cold pressed juices and the breakfast truck. And I'm pretty sure whatever goals you set long term and short term, you make them all come to fruition.
Yeah, because my business partner, she is the reason behind the cold press because see, she didn't believe in going to doctors and getting medicines to lose weight. So she just put in her mind, she just started researching and started making juices, juicing and everything. So that was a another addition to what I was doing as well. So it worked out. It's a great marriage in that part right there. Recipe for success.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So you being a culinary artist, you being gifted at cooking, you crushing it in the game, you've been in the game for a long time. So when you go out to restaurants and patronize restaurants, are you a harsh critic when it comes to food and how it tastes and stuff like that?
Yes, I am because I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this right here. To be honest with you,
Mhm.
I can't believe I can't just spend my money on something that just give it away. You
Right.
know, I critique like if a server come to my table and their apron is dirty and nasty, I ask for another server
Mm.
because you're touching that apron and you're touching my food. That's bacteria. You can't see it at all, and I don't like to be sick.
Right.
So it's like preventive maintenance. You can prevent things if you know it, you
Right.
know. But for the most part, I I get things that I know that they can't mess up on the menu.
Hey, I definitely understand that, and I definitely understand where you're coming from in terms of hey, the apron dirty, bacteria. So it just sounds like you're very observant, and hey, you get them like you said, like you get them dishes that they can't mess up. I'm tracking. I'm tracking.
Yeah, because if you come to Pots and Pans, my restaurant is very clean.
Right.
I mean, they tell me I have OCD, which I do. I do. If something on the floor, pick it up and put it in the trash can. Everything has a place.
Right.
I don't like hoarders. I don't like a lot of junk because you got junk, you're gonna have bugs, you're gonna have other things living there and all that kind of stuff. And I don't. I'm very scared of mice and rats and stuff like that. Where my restaurant is at, we have a big field in the back. I make sure I pay for pest control to come out there.
Right.
I pay for things that's gonna help my business. Cause see, I've been in a lot of places where they have roaches and this and that, and it's sad to say that those restaurants are packed to the door. People just going in there eating it.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Nah, hey, OCD, that's a great problem to have. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Clutter attracts critters, so I don't blame you for keeping the restaurant clean, keeping the lawn cut, and yeah, I can definitely attest to what you're saying. Some of these nice restaurants that be packed wall to wall, yeah, they have some stuff crawling around. I seen with my own two eyes. I won't call out them spots, but you are right. So I commend you for
And
being
then
OCD.
I have people come in to fix on equipment and stuff. We move the equipment. It is nothing. It might be just a little. When I say faint stuff on the floor,
Right,
no. Every night we spraying it down. We spraying it, and so we pull it from the wall so it can come on out, so we can sweep it up and mop it up and get it out of there. I mean, that's an everyday thing. Cleanliness is next to godliness. I mean, I'm for real.
yes,
I mean,
ma'am. Absolutely, absolutely. I trust me. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, especially when you, like you said, dealing with food and you have to be on point. Like, there's no room for error. There's no room to be playing around. And like I said, I'm glad that you are OCD. You keep the restaurant clean. You keep everything in order. And like you said, everything has a place.
Yes, because hey, you know, I tell a lot of people, I say, I might be your boss, but I have bosses. I have the health department is my boss. The city of Montgomery is my boss. The business license is my boss. The IRS. I have to answer to them. So yeah, that don't exclude me. I have bosses too.
Exactly. Absolutely. Exactly. 1000%. As we wrap up the podcast, Demonica, I want to ask the $1 million question. I started this podcast because I wanted to highlight the greatness connected to the city of Montgomery, whether you were born here or lived here for a significant period of your life, be it college, military, or work. You being a hometown hero, operating in business here in Montgomery. I want to ask you, what do you appreciate the most about the city of Montgomery?
That it is, you can really live here without having the cost of living so high. Um, Jobs are everywhere. Looking back where blacks was minority, now you look around now, you have Latinos. They're everywhere. They're not afraid to work. They're not afraid to take their money and put it back into their culture so they can get out of the situation that they're in. And that's all I can say. I like Alabama. I know a lot of people that stayed here and moved away. Then they come back here to live and raise their kids because guess what? It's not a fast-paced city, state. You can really, smell the roses in down south. You really can, and it's a lot of history here. The legacy, the tourism. It's a lot of history here. You just got to get out and make yourself available to go to these different places to understand the history because a lot of it is not in the books. When we coming up, we didn't understand none of this stuff. Only thing we could see is on TV. March, you got Roots and all these kind of movies and stuff play over and over and over. That's just a facade to me. You got to get out and you got to walk the streets and going into these buildings and things and go to these archives and just look where your ancestors is at, where they came from. They got records of all kinds of stuff, but you don't know because guess what? You don't want to exercise that freedom, that right to know where your history comes from, with the beginning of it. Because you can listen to people all day long, but you really have to get out there and see it for yourself. That's my opinion. That's my thoughts.
Yes, ma'am. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. So how can the people connect with you, Demonica? What are your social media handles and website?
Well, it's Potz And Panz Gourmet is our website. We also have a nonprofit organization called Potz And Panz Feed the Hungry. That's something that was gifted to me as well because when I was in Atlanta, I had my restaurant up there. I was able to connect with a lot of city councilmen and stuff like that, lobbyists and stuff. And in Georgia, you got a lot of homeless people there. So what I started doing, when food that we have that still is eatable, but we throw a lot of food in a trash can. So I said, let's pack it up and let's go out and let's give it to people that's in need, that needs it, and they did an article on me in Georgia because I was doing it. And the AJC had picked it up and they asked me why I wanted to do that because hey, nothing is promised. Nothing is promised. And I said if I ever would be in that situation, I would want somebody to love on me that way, feed me, So that's the reason why I started that nonprofit. It's not off the ground like I wanted to because I'm still, my restaurant's still a baby. It still needs my attention here and there, but I thank God that I got some good people around me that's willing to help me get to that point there. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. And I'll be sure to put the website as well as your Facebook and your IG information in the description of the episode. Hey, Demonica, thanks again for the conversation. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. All right, have a good one.
You too.
Bye bye.
Yes, ma'am. Good people, that concludes another dope episode of the Gumptown Podcast. In the meantime, in between time, y'all know what to do. Be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you. Gone.